Yo, what's up, guys? What's up, per footballers? We're back at it with another PP. No, it's just
LMP.
PRFFFFLMP.
Yep.
And we're back at it again. And you might notice that we have a special guest with us this week. We have Senor Verde himself, uh, Mr. Matthew Stice,
Man of many talents.
man of many talents and many names. It's a pleasure having you on with us today, Matt.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's get this thing crack-a-lacking. I gotta share my screen here, and then we can begin.
So Matt, as the guest on our podcast this week, we'll let you start and figure. You can decide where the conversation starts.
We can go with, let's see. Let's start with the what I would say probably the worst game of the week. It actually, well, I guess that's very debatable to say,
No, it was
but
the
let's
worst
start with
game
the
of the
top.
week.
The top of, I'll say the lowest scoring game of the week,
It was certainly the
which was
worst.
actually the closest game of the week, hilariously enough, but it
Yeah.
was the lowest scoring.
Yeah. So we've got yours truly against Aaron, right? We got Philly phobia and light the egg on fire. Um, I mean, where do we begin with this week here?
Bit of a QB dud, both
Yeah,
sides.
uh-huh. CD Lamb kind of stunk. Zay Flowers kind of stunk. Nico Collins had an okay game. Justin Jefferson played a little above average. We had um, Najee Harris playing, I mean, pretty much what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Whatever this guy's name is, didn't do very much.
Brock Bowers,
Devin Singletary,
Tony Pollard,
Pollard, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sean White. Yeah.
It's just it's just an overall like kind of a
The
stinker
uh,
all around.
the defensive matchup was
Yeah.
pretty
That's a tough one.
lopsided.
Little
In fact,
tough pill to swallow.
that was kind of the difference in the game there. I mean,
It,
15
it
points.
it certainly was the difference there. That 15 points actually.
It's
So
gonna be hard to win a game when your defense is getting negative too. And you know what? You wouldn't have thought that them going up against the Panthers, right? But
Yeah, that's
I
surprising.
certainly did not think that.
Andy Dalton's out there. I mean, you can't
The
play a defense going up against Andy Dalton.
you know, I've been proven wrong. I've been proven wrong. I thought it was a good pick. Clearly, Vegas knows something that I don't know. But it just a real dud of a week for me. And to be honest, for Aaron as well. But fortunately, I think this week is the only week. I think I'm the only person who could have played this week and won. Is that correct? Oh no, we
You
also
could
have
have beaten Josiah, but
could have
Seems
been.
to play very well.
That's an interesting thing to note that had I played Josiah this week, I would have won, scoring only 63 points.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you can't really. I mean, Matt, put it right on the nose. This is that defensive matchup that ended
It
up winning it for Aaron, and it comes
certainly was.
off the heels too of being, he wasn't sure which defense to start last week. I think he started Kansas City against Cincinnati
Yeah,
last week. If I'm not wrong about that. This year he did a heel turn, or this week he did a heel turn and started Minnesota over Houston, which is a bold matchup.
it
For
is.
him. It paid off for him.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It is rather interesting to think that you look at a team like the Unstoppable Force here that put up 113 points and lost. Um, and look how
yeah,
many teams had he played, he would have won. He would have beaten the Procrastinators, Zach on the Couch, the W Squad, the Perfect Blue Ballers, the Light the Egg on Fire, Philly Phobia, and the Steagles that never were. He would have beaten almost every other team except for the team that he played.
unfortunate.
Man, it's unstoppable force, more like stoppable force. Am I
Poor
right?
Poor Jacob just can't get a win.
Can't get a dub.
On the,
Um,
while we're talking about the unstoppable force, why don't we look at his counterpart, the Wizards of Light,
dude,
steamrolling through the year so far. Tanner, the defending champ.
the defending champ. He is starting the season 3-0, and he's on a hot streak. He really is. He's got Dak coming off a great best game so far. Chris Olave actually put numbers up for once.
Rasheed,
Reshi Rice has really kind of stepped into the role of the guy there down at
I
over
think
in
I think
Kansas
Rasheed
City.
Rice is like 1 or 2 in receiving yards this year.
Yeah, he's had a really good starting season.
Kind of going
Really, just
crazy.
everybody hit, right? Except for Kyle Pitts, but that's kind of to be expected. That's kind of his thing, is that he doesn't do as well as he's supposed
He
to.
might have gotten a TD if he wasn't interfered with that they didn't
Well,
call.
the refs didn't see it, so
I guess not. They might have been wearing those 3D glasses that kind of obscured their
yeah,
vision a
I
bit.
think that's
but-
it. Maybe they had one eye patch on.
Matt, I've
So
got
I
a
have
question.
to. I got a comment on Hubbard for Tanner
Yeah.
because at the beginning of the season he didn't do anything and he seemed like a pretty inconsequential player. So I dropped him in favor of I don't even remember who I picked up for him. I don't know if it was like a different defense or what it was, but that may have not been the greatest idea on my part.
Yeah,
Seeing as he just put up 25.4 points.
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna ask you, was if you regretted dropping Hubbard there.
I mean, it's one game. He didn't do really that much in the other two games, so we'll see what he does going forward. I feel like I want to say I dropped him for a defense, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Classic.
But
The story of this matchup here was that crazy comeback that Dak Prescott and the Cowboys had.
Yeah.
That really helped put Tanner over the top, if I'm looking at that correctly.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, this matchup was a little closer than it looks, right? I mean, he won by like 30-ish points, but Dak kind of went crazy there.
Yeah, if you look at the Thursday or the matchup, goodness
Yeah.
gracious, the matchup, the timeline, it was that Sunday late game that just barely put Wizards of Light over the top.
Yeah.
And
Where
going
is that?
in, Dak Prescott just obliterated the rest of it. If
Am
you
I
scroll
missing something?
that little blue button right there that says the matchup
Oh,
recap,
that one.
yeah, so scroll down and you'll see the matchup
Yeah.
timeline, and it'll show just how it just barely came up.
Yeah. Looked really promising until it didn't, right?
And some of that late wizard magic there.
That's right.
Uh, but if you're Jacob, like you had a pretty good week. Goddard had a huge game, 170 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones, had a good game. Jacob did a good job replacing Mixon out of his lineup with that. Caleb Williams, not bad. Couple interceptions though. I don't know,
You love
Jake.
to see it.
Yeah, nothing you really could have done there. But
Yeah, just because Matt had mentioned it, I just wanted to bring up one of my biggest blunders from last fantasy football season was I had Puka Nakua for about 3 weeks, and he really underperformed 3 weeks in a row. And then I dropped him, and then the next week was the week that he went crazy, and then he was insane the whole rest of the season.
yeah.
whoops.
That was a bit of an oopsie on my end.
Yeah, so for you new guys, like just because somebody's doing bad doesn't mean that they're going to do that the whole season. It's a long season, so you got to be patient with some of these guys.
Certainly.
And some of them you might wait just about all season long for them to do something, and they never do.
And they never do. Yeah. So, what do they got here on the bench? Anything exciting?
I,
Sam Darnold. Heyo, look at those numbers from Sammy Darnold himself.
Pretty good.
Ford. I think he's actually the highest rated quarterback in the league right now, which is wild. Through 3 games that we would say Sam Darnold is the highest
Sam
rated quarterback
Darnold.
in the league.
Wow.
I love
Yeah.
Jacob's. I love his quarterback controversy that he's got going on with Caleb Williams and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's a quarterback room I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And he chose again it's interesting that he did choose to start Caleb Williams there after we very clearly told him that that might not be a good idea to keep starting Caleb Williams. Not that that was going to be the difference maker, but Sam Darnold did perform better than Caleb Williams did.
Yeah, he got him four. He would have gotten him 4 more points. So
Yeah, hey, could come up in the end of the season, right? When you have points for and points against.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. we had a lot of high scoring teams this week.
We did, yeah. Well, let's get to maybe, is this the most lopsided matchup this week?
No,
Surely.
it is
No,
not.
it's not.
It's
The
I
certainly
know
second most
exactly which one is the most lopsided.
let's hit up the lowest scoring single-sided game, which is the
All right.
perfect Plute Ballers themselves against, the one and only
Steagles.
that never were. Where do you want to begin with this one, Sam?
well, I'd just like to thank my team for not having a stinker of a week like Josiah's team did.
That's
Uh,
reasonable, yeah.
Gosh, Raheed Shaheed. I mean, we were talking boom or bust. Boom the first 2 weeks and major bust last week. Zero
Yeah.
points. Jahmyr Gibbs had the awesome 0 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown, which helped.
Yeah.
Burrow had a pretty good game. I was already ahead at that point. Actually, no, going into Monday night, so I had 3 guys playing. I had Kincaid and Brian Robertson Jr. and Burrow, and I think I was only losing by like 6, and I ended up on top and got much more than I needed to take Josiah down. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't about my team doing good. It was mostly about Sam Laporta and the rest of Josiah's
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
living up to the
I
hype.
mean, you got, starting down here with the kicker, right? We got Jake Elliott putting up APAT. We got Jackson Smith and Jigba, 39 yards and 3 catches. Sam Laporta, 36 yards, 2 catches. Zay White, is that it? Is that his name? Is it
Uh,
Zay?
I think his name is.
Zamir.
Zamir, yeah.
Um,
Zamir White.
Another note about my team. DK Metcalf had a must-see 70-yard touchdown reception. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a must-see 70-yard touchdown reception, at least according to the highlight reels.
Where do I see it? I don't see it on here.
Well, you'll just have to look it up separately.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But it's, yeah, according to all the highlight reels, it was a must-see 70-yard touchdown. So make sure you go look it up.
What an interesting stat line. I know we pointed out, but Rashid Shaheed with, 15 points, 19 points, 0 points.
Wow.
But
0
all of
catches
his
on 5
games,
targets.
I said we did kind of mention this last week. We do want players that have high target volume, and he's been in this 4 to 5 targets. He's on brand with his 5 targets. He just didn't haul any of them in this week. Yeah, but alas, Amon-Ra St. Brown though actually kind of started performing. Week 1 was a bit of a dud, but I mean, last week he had 18 targets. This week he had 8 and a touchdown.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, he's pretty good at football, I hear.
Josiah might want to look for. He might want to try to look for trading for another receiver. He does have Puka on the IR, which
I
might
could
back,
he
but
could come back this season, maybe.
yeah, but for now, he's Shaheed. You don't
Yeah,
know what he's gonna do, and Jigba.
yeah, it's tough. Also, he's got Tyreek Hill. Oh, that's Taysom Hill. Sorry, that's not Tyreek. That's the wrong T Hill that's injured.
Yeah.
I think I don't think Taysom Hill, whatever his name is, I don't think he's worth rostering Josiah. So
And it doesn't really do much
uh,
fantasy wise.
Especially considering the way his bench currently looks. If he
yeah,
had a solid bench, I don't hate a Taysom Hill stash just because if if Drew Brees or not Drew Brees, if Derek Carr goes down, Taysom Hill might get the nod to play quarterback, so you can play quarterback in the tight end slot, which is always fun. But
Yeah.
that's really the only upside to Taysom Hill.
yeah, that's the only upside. So
Yeah. All right. Well, fair enough. That's bit of a stinker there from the Plute Bowlers. We
yeah, I
already
think
hit up the. Go ahead.
no, I was about to say I think other than the low scoring game, I think I was the lowest scoring winner of the week.
I believe you were, yeah, with 101. Yeah.
Yeah, let's start talking about the oh gosh, let's I don't want to do it to Matt just yet. Why don't we look at Levi and Zach?
Yeah, let's do that maybe. So Levi really had a mildly above average week. I don't think it was anything particularly special. he had some duds because this Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews debacle is not an enjoyable place to be, and I'm glad that I don't have to live there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I can just start Travis Kelce every week and get 4.5 points.
Yeah, Levi's kind of stuck because he's got Njoku that's hurt on his bench, and
Yeah,
David Njoku's a pretty decent tight end, so you don't want to drop him. But
right,
then you need somebody to put in your lineup while Njoku's hurt. So
right.
Well, I will say his running backs though are pretty solid. He's got a really solid starting couple of RBs there.
Right. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
played
The King
last week.
Henry. This is a big thing, right? I mean, they really have not been there. I think they're finally starting to learn how to use Derrick Henry himself, right? The first week they only gave him 13 catches. From my understanding, Derrick Henry's a guy you got to get him, 20 plus
right,
touches to really get him rolling because he kind of wears down the defense because he's so big. He
Yeah.
he runs so hard. You just have eventually he'll snap off some big runs. And this just 13 rush attempts isn't going to get him there. Then last week they got him up to 18, and he started to perform a little bit. And then this last week, right? I think they figured it out. They said, hey, if we hand him the ball, he'll run well. And so 25 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean,
you would
monster
think
performance.
you would think that Derrick Henry would have more games like that because with Lamar Jackson running in the backfield,
Right.
wearing the defense down, tiring them out, then you get
Hmm.
Derrick Henry in there just bulldozing over everybody. Um, yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry's been one of the best running backs in the NFL for years for a reason.
Yep.
A team like Baltimore can't figure out how to use him. I
Yeah.
mean, but
Well,
they,
it does seem like they're starting to figure it out, though. That's for sure.
yeah,
So,
as a well-coached team that will use him to their advantage.
absolutely. If only they'd figure that out against the Chiefs.
Well,
Um,
I'm okay with them losing.
you'd rather see the Chiefs win than Baltimore?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Ugh.
I know.
Anyways,
Hey,
uh, what?
you know, good week, pretty decent week from Zach when you look at the first, 5 players. Lamar Jackson, always going to have a good week. Drake London had
Hmm.
a good week. Terry McLaurin, pretty good game yesterday. Um,
Yeah.
had some really big catches against the Bengals. Bijan Robinson had a decent game.
He
ETN Jr. had
did.
a decent game, but then you look at the rest of it, and it's like Evan
Yikes.
Ingram, stinker.
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson, point 0.3 points. Ew, that's not
Yikes.
What?
believable.
23 yards and a lost fumble.
Mm.
You hate to see it.
You hate
Justin
to see
Tucker
it.
didn't do much. Pittsburgh's defense did okay.
Just a tough place to be.
I mean, when you got your running backs popping off like Levi did, that's gonna be tough to beat, especially with those 2 workhorse running backs that he's got
Yep.
on his team.
100%. Well, and honestly, when Njoku comes back, his lineup's looking pretty good. Um,
He is,
you know,
yeah.
if he could seal in, maybe if if good old Deshaun Watson started learning how to play football again, he'd be in a pretty good spot here with his team.
Yeah, I think Levi's got a pretty good squad there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would agree with that.
And now
A
with,
lot.
Andy Dalton playing quarterback in Carolina, does that raise the value of Deontay Johnson there on his bench? I mean, he had 22 points.
That's possible. I'm not going to say that's not possible.
You might even say it's probable.
Yeah.
You could. That's the thing you could say. Um, yeah, so that's that matchup. Now we've got 2 more matchups to go here. Maybe we'll go to the highest score getter of the week,
It's the numballers.
Mr. Numballers and prostate
Procrastinating podcasters.
the prostate podcasters.
Sure.
I just want to say, Mr. Numbers had to do a lot of counting this week.
Oh boy,
Look at
did
those
he!
numbers, man. Holy cow.
So many numbers for counting. Now, the first thing I do want to point out, we can all see that T. Higgins, Paul has stood by T. Higgins,
He
through
has.
thick and thin,
He
and he was
really has.
rewarded with 33 yards on 3 catches this week.
Everybody else was
So
going nuts. But I think it's funny
Yeah.
when you look down the board and you see all these crazy numbers, and then you get to the very bottom,
You see
-1.
Dallas -1. Yeah.
That's crazy to think he could have had even more points.
He could have had
Because I
even
think if you
more
look on his bench, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure he had a defense that was sitting down. Yeah, he could have
15.
put the Denver defense in.
Hmm.
man.
Yeah. Or even if he'd started, what, whoever this guy is. I mean, you wouldn't. You would start T. Higgins instead. But, if he was crazy, he
Yeah.
could have, been pushing 200 points. That's a lot of numbers.
I don't really think there's a whole lot of constructive criticism we can give Paul this week.
No, especially from my team that's only scored 68 points.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase went crazy. Josh Allen went crazy. Malik Neighbors went crazy. Historic performance from Malik Neighbors, by the way. I think he's the youngest player to ever score 2 touchdowns in a game.
I
Um,
think I think I did see that, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's kind of neat.
Has
But this
been
Kyron Williams
for a
went
while.
crazy. That was a nice upset too. The Rams came back to win that one.
Yeah, it was
And
surprising.
yeah,
They
Williams went nuts in there.
game.
David Montgomery, man, he has
Does what he
really kind of
does.
come out as the premier back, I think, in that backfield in Detroit. Um,
Monty doing
yeah,
work.
yeah. Jameer Gibbs definitely is more of the change of pace. They like to give him the ball in space, but
Yeah,
they love handing the ball off to David Montgomery and telling him go get 5 yards, and he's pretty
bowling
good at it.
over some people. Dude, I love that
Yeah,
play where the offensive line just picked him up and was just
they
carrying
picked him up
him.
and carried it. It was like an extra 8 yards. It was
It was
it
all that
wasn't
was awesome.
Yeah, it was not like insignificant, the yardage
I
they gained
know.
from his feet weren't even
Just
on the ground. They're just
just along
dangling.
for the ride. It was so
Yeah,
fun.
What do you
yeah.
guys think about what do you guys think about what Cody did? So we were talking about, Levi has Isaiah Likely, and then
Hmm.
Cody's got the second head of the two-headed monster, Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
Isaiah Likely had .9 points for Levi. Mark Andrews had 0 points. So what's going on in that tight end room over there?
Yeah. That's a great question. And I think the real answer is that no one really knows. I think there's I think that they are both in a predicament where both of them are at the same time unstartable and must starts.
Yep. Yeah, like
Um,
I wouldn't take either of those guys out of my lineup because they're top tight ends in the league.
yeah,
I think you have to kind of look at the matchups though to an extent because where Dallas's run defense is so bad, Baltimore didn't really have to throw the ball. They could just run it all over them. So if
that's true.
Baltimore ends up playing against a team that's decent against the run, I feel like the tight ends would probably be a lot more involved.
Yeah. That's a pretty good insight, especially considering that they're starting to use Derrick Henry a little bit more. He probably would have
True.
an even greater role moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, just a whole lot of numbers here on both sides of the ball, right? Brees Hall had a good game. Brandon Ayuk kind of sucked. Devontae Adam kind of sucked. But Brock Purdy, look at the man, the myth, the legend. Brock Purdy.
Pretty
The
good, you could
questionable.
say.
Did he get hurt?
He hurt his back. His back is
Oh, okay.
sore,
Because he's carrying the 49ers right now because everybody else is hurt.
basically.
It's kind of wild to think that the 49ers are 1-3 after
1 and
playing
2.
1-2, sorry, after playing the Jets, Minnesota with Sam Darnold, and the
Yeah,
Rams without any receivers.
that's pretty surprising.
Yeah. But to be fair, they don't have C-Mac. That's pretty worthwhile. Or Debo Samuel.
Yeah, the injuries are definitely piling up for them, but I mean, the same thing for the Rams, though. Both teams are pretty
True.
crippled playing in that
Yeah,
last game.
that's true. That's true. And they
So
found a way to pull one out there, right?
maybe,
Um,
Cody's
what do
still
we have
got
here?
the three quarterback set. And he's still holding on to Trevor
Yeah,
Lawrence and Justin
Trevor
Herbert for
Lawrence.
some reason. So
Hey,
I'm
that
I'm
could
really
come in
curious to see what Cody's
clutch.
got in store with those three guys.
Yeah. Look at his kicker on the sidelines here going crazy.
wow.
Uh,
All right, that's a kicker, isn't it? No, who am I thinking of?
Myers is a wide receiver.
Isn't there another kicker that's like a Jay Myers?
Yeah, Jason Myers.
Okay. It doesn't say. Oh, yeah, it does. Never mind. In my mind, that was Jason Myers going crazy. Ignore me, but that's still a
Dude,
good performance.
Jason Myers with 62 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. That's
Hey,
awesome.
dude, good for him, man. He's really stepping out of his comfort zone. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's wild.
lots of good from Paul this week.
Yeah.
That is an
Now
impressive
let's
Indeed.
performance for his first win of the season.
let's go to the coveted, the premier matchup of the week, right?
Number one
Um,
versus number two coming in, the hyped up projected
that's
close
right.
matchup, which
And
ended up
it
being the
did
biggest blowout.
disappoint a little bit.
There's only one person that it didn't disappoint, and that's Andrew.
Some might say that Matt has not taken a beating like this since Party Room Film Festival 5.
That is something that people could potentially discuss and say. It's very, very possible that that would happen.
Matt, do you have anything to say about like if you could talk to your team right now about this past week's performance, what would you say to them?
I would tell them you guys need to score more points. I'll say this. So in hindsight, I should have kind of I felt pretty confident going into the matchup, but in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have because with the Dolphins playing a backup QB, Achan had a really good game the previous week, but with the backup QB in, you'd expect Seattle to stack up against the run and try to force Miami to throw it, which they're not really capable of doing. But then the other thing is the backup QB got hurt, so you had the third stringer Tim Boyle in. So
Tim
I mean,
Boyle.
Achan he'll get his touches, but it's hard. Yards are going to be hard to come by if everybody's looking to stop you. And then Tyreek Hill didn't really do anything. The one that I was a little surprised about is Mike Evans. I feel like Mike Evans hasn't really gotten going this season, and only 2 catches for 17 yards. I mean, that's
His
a
first,
good
I was
week
gonna say, I thought
one.
his first, I was gonna say, I remembered him having a good week 1, but you're right. Beyond that, it really has not been a whole lot. And only 3 targets is really surprising. But
Yeah,
also
that's
Baker had a rough week. He got hit a lot playing against Denver.
for sure.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, Sam, we were talking about this last week, right? That was our concern for Matt's team was that with Tua out, that Tyreek and um, Achan were both
Yeah,
gonna flounder a little bit, and it does,
they
unfortunately for
sure
you,
did.
look
I like
like they did.
I like your use of flounder, considering that they're the Dolphins.
They are the Dolphins.
Creative.
Yeah,
Another disappointment is Jamison Williams,
JMO,
0.7,
man.
-7 rush.
But to be fair, I think that his last 2 performances are maybe a little bit above where he's been. But
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
he's just I
You
don't know.
like
He's
seeing
another one of
11
those like
targets.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like he's another one of those high risk, high reward players
Yeah,
because he'll have a lot of weeks where he'll have a bunch of yards
yeah,
and then.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Lions are so stacked on offense that it's kind of
they are.
hard for
Yeah,
everybody to go crazy every week. There'll be
right.
weeks where certain players do a lot more than others.
But
So
when you kind of factor in, they've got 2 running backs, they've got a tight end, they have a premier wide receiver, and then they've got
Yep.
like 2 to 3 other wide receivers that they like. It's just a little bit. There's almost not enough to go around.
Yeah,
It's not like if they're putting up 40 plus points a game, then sure, but they're not. They're winning games at 25, 30 points.
yeah.
yeah. So Matt, you got to see Jaden Daniels firsthand. What were your impressions of him?
I think
Quarterback, is he going to be your quarterback for the rest of the season going forward?
it's definitely something to think about. It might have to be largely matchup dependent because it's just one game, so it's hard to say whether he's going to be that good consistent. I can't imagine he's going to be as good as he was last night throughout the rest of the season consistently, but
Maybe he
he'll definitely
will.
have his moments. He might be the next CJ Stroud. He might be a legit legend. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a Heisman Trophy winner, so he's definitely got
every
plenty
game.
of talent.
He could be the next Joe
But
Burrow.
dude, he could be. He very well could be. Although he's already got, I would say, definitely more running
A
capability.
little more mobile than Joe Burrow. But they're both LSU, Heisman
Yeah.
Trophy winners, right?
Let's talk
Yep.
about Andrew's team a little bit. I mean, he did,
Yeah.
he is first place. Saquon Barkley, another big week for Andrew. Saquon's the number 1 ranked player in fantasy this year.
Man, I bet the Giants are really happy they let him go
I bet they are.
to a
Um,
division rival.
I am pretty thrilled that like this could be the year that my Saquon Barkley to Madden cover could come true. If he keeps playing
Yeah.
like this.
There's a good chance.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet got 20 points Zach Charbonnet got 24.
Mhm.
Andrew was toying around with the idea of starting Derek Carr over Patrick Mahomes. That worked out well for him by not doing that.
Yeah.
Andrew
Yeah,
also is one of the teams that has three quarterbacks.
Geno
Yeah.
Smith.
Be a little clever
Wow.
to pick up Derek Carr and see if he could trade him, but now I just see Andrew's got two quarterbacks on his bench.
Right. Yeah, it's a little tough there. Now looking at Matt's team here, you kind of left a little bit on the table here on your bench, yeah? With Amari Cooper
Amari
and Zach
Cooper,
Moss.
I could have put him in. I mean, obviously it wouldn't have mattered anyway, but
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
Zach Moss, I
Over
hadn't really done
JMO.
much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean,
Theoretically, yeah. Because if you'd gone Moss over Achan and Cooper over Williams, I mean, it wouldn't have been as big of a blowout.
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been like, well, I was talking to Sam about this yesterday, but if I had put Cooper in, then, you know, I would have been a little bit closer. It would have been one of those things where if something absolutely bonkers happens, like if Jaden Daniels just has like 6 touchdowns randomly,
Sure. Yeah,
and
and
then
they're all
Evan
rushing
McPherson,
touchdowns.
and Evan McPherson's booting like a bunch of 50-yard field goals. It's
Yeah.
like it could have been like it wouldn't have been completely implausible for me to pull a
Yeah.
miracle comeback. That's only if I had, put in Amari Cooper and
Right.
put
Yeah.
myself in that position. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, even had you started those guys, that would have been an extra 35 or so points, which would have still put you back about 20 points from winning.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it would definitely wouldn't have mattered at all. There's no combination of players I had in my roster that would have been helpful.
yeah, certainly.
So,
Oh,
do you are we done talking about this matchup?
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
want to I
We,
want to comment real quick on
yeah,
Stephon Diggs.
Go for
He's
it.
had a
yeah,
pretty good start to the season,
he
and
has.
he
Except
didn't
for
do a
his
whole
game
lot in
two,
week
but
2, but the first
yeah,
week and then this most recent game, he's
yeah,
putting
really
some
stepped it up
numbers
for
up.
there. 12 catches
Can we go?
and
Let's
12
go look
targets.
at the league, the overall standings.
Yeah, let me move us. Ooh, I'll put us up there on the top. Also, by the way, we've got 6 minutes left, so we should wrap it up here
Yeah.
Okay.
relatively quickly.
So obviously, we talked about Andrew. Andrew's in first.
Hmm.
Tanner's also there with 3-0 record. If you look at
Yep,
those points for and the points against, Andrew has by far scored the most points of anybody this season. Uh,
certainly.
Mr. Numballers is actually Mr. Numballers is third, but Do It for Day Arms is second. But Andrew has a very low total of points scored against them.
He
So
does. Yeah,
I would think, especially with as many high scoring teams as there have been, um, I might think that Andrew's luck might run out for him. I think he's just run into some easy matchups on the weeks. So I don't know. I mean, it's a long season, so we could
yeah.
see we could
No,
see swift.
another interesting stat, though, if we want to look at that, right, is that yours truly, right? I believe I have the lowest number. Oh, I guess Light the Egg on Fire and myself are tied for the lowest number of points scored against us. Um, and we're both 2-1, which definitely helps when people score less points against you. And then,
Indeed.
and then we can scroll on down to the stoppable force himself, Jacob McGlone, who
He's
has,
getting
I
run
believe,
over.
the highest number of points scored against him. Yeah, which he really should work, because if he could get this number to look more like my number, he would probably be at
He would
least
be
two
in
and
good
one.
shape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he'd be looking
so
pretty good.
if he could convince his
Um,
opponents to score less points, that would probably be good for him.
Indeed. Can you go to the schedule real quick? I want to see real
I can
fast
try.
when I want to see when
The schedule page just gives like what's going on for like each team. If you go to the matchups at the very top,
oh, well, that's dumb. Why would it do that?
because that's how it works. If you go to the
That's stupid. Why would they design it that way?
because that's how it works.
So you want to
Yeah,
preview
that's
this
lame.
upcoming week?
I just
All right,
wanted to
hold on.
see what the matchups for next week are going to be.
Yeah, so this is the next
Okay.
week's matchup. So we've got Philly Phobia ready to take down the giant himself. The
Oh man,
Steagles they
okay.
never were. taking on the Numballers, the Wizards of the Light, and the W Squad. Light the egg on fire and do Armis. A little bit of roommate matchup there. The Plute Ballers and Zach, and then the
Coworker
Prostate
matchup.
Podcasters and the Stoppable Force.
So right off the bat, I'm seeing. I think my matchups of the week that I would circle would be Eagles and Never Were versus Mr. Numballers. It's obviously you see, look at projections, supposed to be pretty close. And then the Procrastinating Podcaster versus the Unstoppable Force. That's also projected to be close. I'm interested to see if Jacob can pick up his first win on the year. He has put up some points, but he has nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
So
one interesting one that we kind of breezed over is the Plute Ballers
that's
versus
true.
Zach.
A coworker battle.
Well, it's two coworkers, but it's two coworkers who have not won a game of fantasy football this
Something's
week.
got to give. That's a very good point.
One of them's going to come out on top. They have to, right?
Unless they tie, but that's very unlikely.
It seems pretty hard to do, but only time will tell.
It is possible, but they could. That would be really funny if they tied. But I think it goes without saying we're all cheering for Trevor this week.
That's right. Yeah.
Except for Andrew. I mean, we all we just want to see Andrew go down, right? Because
we want to see Andrew lose. Yep. Certainly.
Yeah, pretty good matchups this week. We're not hitting bye weeks yet. Bye weeks start next week, so start being on the lookout for those after this week.
Sounds good. Well, do any of y'all have anything else you want to add before we wrap this bad boy up?
Just going to point out that there are 3 matchups between teams with winning records, and so those are obviously pretty important in terms of like the standings and playoff position and all that. I know it's early, but if you can find a way to win against a good opponent, that just sets yourself up for success down the line.
Certainly.
Yep. I want to see more trade offers.
That's fair. Yeah. Someone offered me a stinker of a trade, but I don't remember what it was. I think it was Jacob, probably.
It probably was, but I want to hear about more trade offers. We had one go down, kicker for kicker. I'd like to see more of that going on.
Sounds good. Yeah, I like to see it. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for the PRFFFFLMP with Trevor and Sam and Matt this week. And I'm just hanging out.
Hanging out with my
family. Ooh, got some claps.
Yeah, there you go. Timed it perfectly.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Matt. We will. I have to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm gonna end this bad boy.
Bye.
Peace.